It is hard. Yeah, everyone has their own feelings and opinions, and they always, no matter how hard you try, unbiased, you're a human being. At times, the story that you're writing, the topics that you're attracted to because of your own bias. So, yeah, it's absolutely hard.
Oh, okay. How do you formulate your opinions to where you aren't hurting people's feelings, like in your articles and journals that you've written?
Well, I don't really worry about hurting other people's feelings. I have editors that do that, but I will say that there is a lot of consideration that goes into how you talk about certain people. So, because we're talking about race, I'll use an example that I had recently. I was asked to write some profiles about some millionaires, some people that had become independently wealthy through hard work, basically couples. So I interviewed like 3 or 4 couples, and we wrote this big long story about how they became millionaires. The black couple that I interviewed, was wonderful, and probably my favorite interview to write. After it published, I got from someone, I'm not sure who, but they were troubled by the way that I described Black Man, because I used a word, sly, and obviously, when I was writing it, I was not trying to paint a nefarious picture of this person. But using that word, I was telling them that this person didn't deserve this wealth or didn't get the wealth by the same way that the white people did. So language is a tricky thing. That's why we have editors. This story made it through 3 or 4 editors, and no one batted an eye, but that was a huge learning moment for me, and the language that I use to describe, and particularly people of color.
So what are your favorite types of like articles to write? Like what do you like revolve around?
I like writing about gender issues. That's one topic. Really, I just like writing about people. That's kind of what I'm really good at, is just telling really good stories. So some journalists are obsessed with politics, some love business, some love writing about music or sports. I just like telling really good stories. So that it's very broad, but I guess it's a way of saying that I like writing about everything.
So I found this article online, the 6 jobs everyone will want by 2040. Is that your article?
It is, yeah.
So I was just, how did you come up with like the 6 jobs? Like what was where'd your ideas come from?
Yeah, so for that story, I basically just talked to a bunch of career experts and people that work as consultants and who are in these positions where they can see what it looks like for the workforce. That is not a topic that I would know anything about had I not reached out to like 5 or 6 different experts and had them go over on the phone with me exactly what they think is going to be a new job in 25 years and why.
So like the topic in our book is basically Justice is arrested for just being an African American with like just a perception that he is doing something wrong, and it's kind of started his journey through like seeing all of the racial issues with the world, and he's just now starting to see them. So when you're writing and like you are researching, do your eyes just like open up to all these new issues and like greater understanding?
Yes, the story that I'm working on is about domestic violence, and the companies should give paid sick leave to victims of domestic violence. I just got off the phone with someone who was telling me all about that. And this is something that I thought about until 2 days ago, and now I'm like obsessed with it. I can't stop thinking about it or looking into it. And yeah, it's absolutely eye-opening. And I'd imagine very similar to how how Justice is in the beginning of the book.
So do you feel like many like journalists, do you feel like they like try to get their article out fast rather than like getting the facts right?
Totally, yeah. There is a race right now to be first and not necessarily accurate. Video journalism in particular is really bad at that, like the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the Fox Newses, obviously. Magazines are a little different. 30-day print deadline. I also write for a website, time.com, which is Time magazines. Really, the priority is to be first, and so much so that we have employees whose only job is basically regurgitate news that has already been reported. They write like 5 or 6 stories just based on things that are already out there, just so we can be part of the conversation. Luckily, I am not one of those journalists, but they exist, and they exist at every news organization. So yes, that's the answer to your question.
So do you think that race plays into a person getting a certain job?
Yeah, it can, in ways that I don't often think about. I mean, even like the where you went to on a resume, what university you went to, what high school you went to, can be an indicator of your race. There is no question.
Okay, so when like you interview people and you obviously have to like take notes, like what is your process with like taking notes, and like what information do you? You can go.
Everyone does this a little differently. People don't write down anything. They just press a tape recorder, whether it's a phone interview or an in-person interview, and and that's that just type on the computer. People do a combination of both. I do a combination of both. A quick story, I'll just basically transcribe everything they say as they say it. Something where I have a little more time, or if I'm like interviewing someone that's famous, I'll make sure that I record it. You know, legal reasons. You don't want someone to say that they said something that they didn't.
Oh, do you think people's past affect that, like, them getting a job?
Last part cut out. Can you say that again?
Do you think that people's pasts, like, say they did something bad in the past, does that affect them getting a job?
It can. It can if they have a criminal record. It can if the mistake they made was a barrier to education. And if the mistake they made or were perceived to make made, you know, like nothing is secret anymore. You Google someone and their entire life history is at your fingertips. So yeah.
Do you think that many like journalists have like racial sides about like taking sides about race, and like they show those opinions in their writings?
Yeah, the bad ones do. There are a lot of bad journalists that have come out of the woodwork recently, whose entire existence is to prove that there are races. Journalist doesn't.
So when you were writing, and I'm guessing it's like you're individually writing this, have you ever written about something that you don't agree with, but you also are very interested in and know that it would help others?
Jen. I'm struggling to think of an example. So what that you is no. I usually don't write about things that I disagree with, which isn't good. It's a challenge to write about things that you believe to be true. Maybe I should start.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking your time out today to get interviewed. These questions will go into use, and it's made a better understanding for all of us. Do you have anything you would like to say before we end?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. This is fun, and I'm glad that you came to learn this and to be insightful questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.